I think increasing the birth rate in Korea takes all of us to look at the policies, not through the lens of an individual, but through the lens of a family. Since 2006, the government in Korea has spent $270 billion on policies to increase fertility, but the birth rate continues to fall. So why is this? So what I did is I looked at some surveys about what Koreans say about the barriers to birth rates. And about a third of South Koreans say that the high cost of housing is a barrier. Another third of Koreans say that the cost of early care and education is a barrier. When women are asked, 20% say that long work hours are a barrier. And for many women, if they leave the workforce, there are sometimes career costs to them when they come back. So in studies in Seoul, married women, about a fifth of them said that they had problems returning to the workforce after a break, usually for families, and that this had career costs to them. And then all of these changes are occurring in the midst of a changing labor market in Korea. So it used to be that for young Koreans, a traditional employment and a university education gave you a job that allowed you enough income to marry and have children. And those conditions have now changed. So I think one thing we need to look at is whether the policies that are in place are addressing these barriers that South Koreans say are affecting their ability to have babies. So the housing prices, the care and education costs, the long work hours, the career costs, and the changing labor market conditions. Another thing that I think is important is sometimes I think we assume that there's one policy that's a panacea, that's kind of a quick fix, and that it alone can turn around the low birth rates. Fertility experts consistently recommend that a comprehensive package of policies is needed. No single policy is going to work on its own, and government policy will not be able to solve the problem alone. So I like to illustrate this with an onion. And I think of an onion having several layers. And the outer layer of the onion I think of as representing policies for people that just need a little bit of support for a short period of time. For example, some Koreans would like to have a baby if they could work shorter work hours. But then if you move inside the onion a little bit, there's a population that needs moderate support for a modest amount of time. So for example, some Korean families find housing to be a barrier. So if government invested in public housing or provided supports to families so they could afford housing, that would be important to that population. But then if you go really deep into the onion, there's a population that needs more support over a longer period of time. So some young people need training for steady jobs that provide an adequate income. And so government could provide wage subsidies to families who do not have enough income directly, or they could provide subsidies to employers who hire young people. So I think the take-home message is the more policy responses, the better, and the more layers of the onion that they involve in the responses, the more likely we're going to have comprehensive solutions to a complex problem like fertility and the complex responses that it requires. As a family scholar, I would advise looking at fertility policies through a family impact lens. And this would require citizens and policymakers to do that. So let's take an example of a policy that might help promote fertility in South Korea, and that's reduced or part-time work hours. If that policy is viewed through an individual lens, it could raise questions about whether an individual worker is getting special treatment. But if that policy is looked at through a family lens, it could be seen as a benefit to a family that is providing an important service to Korea in raising the country's birth rate. Now, let's take another example. So, women often experience costs to their careers when they return to work after a family break. Now, if providing career opportunities to women after a family break was viewed through an individual lens, it could be seen as a benefit to an individual. But if it's looked at through a family lens, it would be seen as a benefit to society, to a society that desperately needs more young people bearing and rearing children. And let's see, if we looked at providing more apprenticeships that trained young people in the skills that are increasingly needed in Korea, in construction and manufacturing jobs, this could be seen as an opportunity for young people to succeed in life and give them an opportunity to contribute to society by bearing and rearing and raising children. So I think increasing the birth rate in Korea takes all of us to look at the policies, not through the lens of an individual, but through the lens of a family. I think South Korea has developed some policies that are very promising, that they already have in place. When Korean families are asked, one barrier to having children is the cost of early education and care. So to address the loss of earnings when a child is born, South Korean parents have access to 1 year of paid parental leave. And fathers in Korea and Japan have the longest entitlement to leave in the world. So Korea is a global leader in the amount of time that fathers can take parental leave. However, Korea's payments for leave are less than half of other advanced nations. So I think Korea could learn from the experience of other countries. Korea could provide higher payments to families for a shorter period of time, which studies show is more effective than doing lower payments for a longer period of time. And commendably, in January of 2024, Korea did increase its payment rate for the first 6 months of parental leave for fathers and mothers if they take leaves either sequentially or simultaneously. The Ministry of Employment and Labor has developed a system to help Korean corporations hire substitute workers during the leave. So this excellent program could be expanded beyond social services and healthcare, where they are currently placing the most substitute workers. And long work hours are a barrier to fertility in Korea. Korea logs in the longest annual work hours among advanced nations. In Sweden, parents can reduce their work hours by 25% anytime until their child is 8 years of age. In Korea, they can also reduce work hours 15 to 35 hours a week up until their child is 8 years of age, but only for 1 year. So Korea has many excellent policies in place that I think they can build on to address falling fertility. I'm fully aware that South Korea has the lowest fertility rate in the advanced world, but I believe that it's possible for South Korea to increase its birth rate. Now, Is this wishful thinking on my part? Am I an eternal optimist? I like to think of myself as a person who chooses optimism with both eyes wide open to the gravity of the situation. So on what basis would I make this audacious claim that I think South Korea can increase its birth rate? I base my prediction on Korea's track record of several remarkable social and economic changes over the last half century. For example, Korea has risen from the ashes of war to the 13th largest economy in the world in 2023. Impressive. Korea has some of the highest educated men and women amongst advanced nations. It's amazing. Korea has rapidly developed a system of early childhood education and care and after-school care with participation rates that are on par with the Nordic countries, which are the leaders in these types of policies. That's remarkable. And also, Korea is one of 3 nations that was recognized as having the best record and most comprehensive response to the COVID-19 pandemic, among 3 of the best countries in the world in response. That's extraordinary. So I'm optimistic that Korea can increase its birth rate because it's the view of the future that is most consistent with what has happened in the past. Korea has overcome several daunting economic and social challenges. They've even developed their own language, right? I think past performance is the best predictor of future performance. And I'm not the only one that thinks that. The prestigious Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has also made this prediction. Actually, I'm so optimistic that I think South Korea could become a leader in increasing fertility rates among advanced nations.